Who are the big winners and losers in the aftermath of Region, Khazad-dûm, and Rune?
Overall, how satisfied are we with season 2?
And is Elrond just a heart-leaking MLIS, a breaker of his own oaths, or maybe he's a savvy real estate developer? You tell us all this and more as we discuss The Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power TV series season 2 finale here on Bustin' Blockbusters podcast. And welcome to the final podcast for this season on The Rings of Power on Amazon. It's episode 8, the season 2 finale called Shadow and Flame, written by the showrunners J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay, directed by Charlotte Brändström. And let's just get right into it, Priscilla. How would you rate this episode on a scale of 1 to 10?
9 double V's.
Double V's?
Yeah, so villains, there were so many of them because right now the orcs made the turn into complete evilness, as Ada did the opposite turn. So Ada went 180 into good guy territory, and the orcs went 180 into bad guys territory. So now you have a huge population of bad guys, so a lot of villains. You have Sauron, who finally came to terms with the fact that he is a villain. He's not a hero. He's nobody's hero because he now commands orcs, and no hero can command such an ugly army, apparently.
Batman 23 would beg to differ. Orcs are upstanding citizens.
Not now. Not anymore. Maybe late. Maybe earlier they could have been. We don't know. Then we have Kemen becoming a villain too, and Pharazôn, as usual. I still think Ciarán is another villain, in my opinion. So there are so many of them with so many flavors, and then you have the Dark Wizard too. So yeah, they're all around us.
It's a lot of them, that's for sure. What brought it down to a 9?
I think 9 is a very good note. But my thinking was, I had fun watching the episode, and the episode, if you compare to what the whole season was, this episode in particular closed the season as it was. Mm-hmm. The problem is the flaws of the season. So that's why it's not a 10. Like there were Region was amazing from the beginning to the end. I have no notes, honestly, for Region, how it developed, how it came. Khazad-dûm continues to be strong. And I think that we have, by the end of the episode, another conflict coming to Khazad-dûm, which I appreciate that they already put it there. You have the stranger being now Grandelf, because obviously hobbits can't spell. So yeah, so it all works very well. As I said in my review, my channel, if you think the Rings of Power is a story of the Second Age, you're going to have lots of problems with it. Now, if you see the Rings of Power as the origin story of the Third Age, then you can have fun with it. So that's what I'm doing now. So for me, it's all about origin stories, and I'm okay with it. I don't like some changes. I will continue not to like some changes, but it's the way. I cannot do anything about it.
Yeah. That's fair enough. And again, you can check out Priscilla's full review on her own channel at Priscilla TV1. I just went slightly higher than you, but it's still a higher rating. That's because I can't rate anything lower than a 7. 9.2 out of 10, what I like to call double E's.
Double E's?
Expositional endings. That let's catch Galadriel up before we all stand in front of the crowd and they cheer. The whole catching up was the expositional ending. Because, Galadriel's basically been dead, so we got to catch her up, before, she does the big hero rock ending. And the whole thing with the rune situation, the Dark Wizard at one point said, that pity is no good, having pity. But we actually know that pity will defeat Sauron, unlike what he says, because if Frodo doesn't have a little pity on Gollum, then that whole situation doesn't happen.
Yes.
Smeagol's not there. Well, maybe Gollum catches up anyway, but you never know. Frodo could have easily killed Gollum at some point. So, and the fact that he chose not to probably saved the world. So, sorry, Mr. Dark Wizard, you are totally wrong in that respect. The showrunners, they had a lot of doubles. They had Eregions End, that's a double E, and then they had the Daddy Durin Death, which is a triple D. And they said that they had planned both of those before they started writing season 1. They'd planned it for the end of season 2. So I don't know if they're just trying to stroke themselves a little bit or what. But if that's the case, then they did a good plan. I think a lot of people have some problems with season 1. But if it all leads here, then I'm pretty happy with it. You have said in the past that this compression could be problematic for the lore. However, I'm not thinking that they could do it in any other way. If you want to have people invested in characters, who cares if Durin the Sixth is the one who fights the Balrog? It's more important for us, and even the showrunner said, like, the Balrog is this comes in waves. It's not just one singular event. So I'm cool with that, and I want to stay invested in characters that I know. It's easy to do with elves because they live forever, and I guess dwarves live quite a while. But I'm pretty cool with the whole compression, and also this way, you get to keep the most important character in the whole story alive throughout the whole thing. When Theo gets to live it the whole course of events through his whole life, over the course of just a regular man's life, a Southlander life, so that he can raise up and be the guy that hands Isildur the shards of Narsil, because that's what he will do. He will be the one that actually defeats Sauron. He's got to live through all of this. There were a few things that I disliked. One of the things is we're starting to get this precedent, 2 seasons now, where Galadriel and Sauron have to face off. Now in the first season,
of course you would complain about that.
Because we just
we already had this conversation. Tolkien wrote Galadriel as the person, so of course she will have to be seen by Sauron as kind of like a really, really possible, really interesting second in command all the time.
Yeah, I'm totally cool with the Grandelf reveal. I'm not totally cool with Arondir suddenly being fine. No evidence of a wound at all. It reminds me of Wheel of Time at the end of season 1, and we heard Rafe, after Loel, the Ogre, got stabbed. We heard him say, "Don't worry, he's gonna be okay," and we're all like, "That's the blade. You can't do that to somebody and them live." And then the next time we see him in the opening of season 1, he's just fine. So very much that vibe. It must be an Amazon note. Oh no, we like the Ogre. Oh no, we like Arondir. You must find a way to make him live. Okay, well, we'll just forget that it ever happened. Let's just do that. That's one thing that just really pulled it down for me. And I know that's a long time ago. On a Lost podcast, I said something about they don't have tomatoes on the island. What's with suddenly everybody eating tomatoes? And so I got this quote phrase, Matt's tomatoes, for things that just really don't matter. But I complain about them anyway. And so this is a Matt's tomato. We want Arondir to live. Of course we do. It's just that, no addressing of it whatsoever. It was the thing that was weird for me. Again, it just points to the fact that they needed some shock value at the end of the penultimate episode. Otherwise, the rest of it was too good for me to deduct too much more. Folks, that's what I think. We know you don't care, but I would love to hear what you think. So please let me know at BusBlockbuster on the site formerly known as Twitter, or you can also find Double P Media all over all socials, except maybe OnlyFans, at the word double the letters PHQ. And you can find our YouTube channel. Well, not my YouTube channel. I shouldn't use the word R. Evidently, Priscilla's getting paid. I'm not. I don't even know why I'm doing this podcast. Yes. I should be on strike. But
yes, as I said in the last episode, the check cleared. So
the check did clear.
Yeah.
So yeah. Bubba didn't eat too many steak dinners. He managed to clear the check, which I'm sure was a massive amount. I'm pretty sure that if he were to pay me, I'd make twice as much as you.
Whoa, that's not nice to hear.
Two times 0 is 0, right? So that's the way. But anyway, you can find the YouTube channel and make comments there. Also, at the word double, the letter P, the word media is the YouTube channel, and doublepmedia.com as well. If you want to see all of the great things that Bubba's doing, like Let's Solve Only Murders in the Building, Let's Solve Moonflower Murders, all those great mystery shows that Bubba loves that I'm kind of okay with, but generally don't pay too much attention.
And he sings too. So we should not forget that he gets very inspired by these shows and then he starts singing.
Bubba's always wanted to be in a musical. That's just the way Bubba is. And now he feels like he gets a chance to be. Let's talk about, before we move on to talking about the episode itself, though, about the season overall. We don't have to give it doubles like we do our episode ratings. But if you had to weigh the scale on the balance of the entire season, what number do you come up with out of 10?
So to me, it's an 8, and I put like an 8.4 here. And I would just like to speak about the time compression thing, because I agree with you that if you are adapting over 3,000 years to a TV series, that you have to focus, you have to have a limit. I agree with you. I just think that they could have done more, like in a more elegant way,
It is a little clunky. I'll give you that.
Yes, because I myself, when we didn't know anything what was going on with the first with the first season, I imagined that they, like 250 years sounded a good time span, because the dwarfs, they live longer anyway. Elves live longer, but also the people from Númenor live longer. And I was very convinced that if the men from the Southlands, they would show us the men from the Southlands and just stick with a couple of people from the Southlands from season to season, because let's face it, they have the answer to any problem there. Like, make Teal want to get one of the 9 rings so that his life gets extended anyway, so he could be sticking around until the end. And instead, they made some things very strange. For instance, with the dwarves, why did the men why did they make like the Durin father be named Durin? Because that's not how Durins work in the dwarf society. It's just a stupid change that just pissed people that readers off for no reason. It's just a name. They could have called him King Thorin. It brought nothing. It just detracted from the fact that the dwarves, they have some sort of belief in reincarnation. So one Durin cannot reincarnate into the next Durin if they are, father and son. And this and other small things like the whole thing with the hobbits. When are they going to stop with the hobbits? Because we know that they don't play any role specifically in the Second Age. So
Right.
we already had the Stranger review. We already know now why Gandalf likes hobbits so much. And we already know where they came from and that they are going to search for the Shire.
Right.
Are they going to lose time in the Hobbits for a third season just because they think Hobbits belong in the Third Age? That's just my 2 cents here. And they are taking time out from other plots that you could invest. Like, I want to know more about Gil-galad. I want to see more of Círdan. Círdan was amazing. When will Glorfindel arrive? What is going on with Galadriel's husband? And what is the whole thing in the Númenor? Why Pharazôn is not going to Miriel and saying, let's get married, let's do this, because, and Númenor, it still feels very small and very constricted. So, yeah.
Yeah, I understand a lot of that, especially just for the fact that they did try to correct some of the path of the mistakes I think that they made in season 1, and they did so for the most part successfully. But the problem is, as we all know, there can always be a butterfly effect, and so at some point, even if you correct it to the way that it was maybe originally planned or not, or try to correct something that you made an error for in season 1, that creates new problems. Just in terms of,
I will be completely honest here. The only 2 problems they could not have corrected are the order the rings were forged and the whole thing with the Durin's name. The rest they could easily correct it. Ignore the whole Mithril thing. It was just a legend that it was, which they did. They didn't talk about it. And to expand the other plots, they could have expanded the other plots. They could have made him not being Gandalf right now. As I said, they could have gone with the Lord of the Rings trilogy, that when Gandalf turns from gray to white, he has like a slight change in personality and memories, it seems. They could have done that. And, moving forward, they have a big opportunity now to just drop the hobbits, because they are not part of the Second Age. They didn't do anything in the Second Age of note, other than now helping Gandalf. And I'm completely nice. It was fine to see them. It was fine to see an origin story for why the hobbits were in the Shire in the Third Age. But I fear that they are going to insist with this plot for the third season, and it's time wasted in something that it will not add to the end.
So it sounds to me, Priscilla, like you're just engaging in Double H.
Double H.
Harfoot hate.
No, I'm not.
What it sounds like
already
to me.
said.
That's what it sounds like to me.
No.
Yeah,
I like them.
I like them, but I'm going to persecute everything about them. That's like Trump saying he likes Haitians.
Did he say that? I don't think so.
I'm just saying it's like if Trump said he likes Haitians.
Well, first of all, I don't like being compared to Trump, so you should apologize immediately.
I do apologize. Let's move on.
Thank you.
I'm going 8.9 out of 10 for the season. There were some kind of weird continuity things that kind of bugged me, but again, these are Matt's tomatoes. But like, I don't know which way is west on Númenor. Pharazôn's looking at the sunset one way, and it's like that's where you see the prow and the tree. And then the next morning, it's like morning, but the sun's coming up behind the tree where there would be a building that would be blocking it in another episode. So it's just kind of those kind of things just drive me crazy because I got to know which way is up. I'm not a geography nerd, like Nerd of the Rings or whatever, but that kind of stuff is just kind of like, consider if you're the visual effects department, have a layout of whichever way it faces and keep your computer models the same from episode to episode. I understand you got to spread the work out among a bunch of different artists, but give them some kind of guidebook so that they can at least be consistent with what direction the sun is coming from or the sunlight is coming from at particular times of day. That kind of stuff. I do not like the Sauron Galadriel dynamic. I absolutely hate this. She totally broke his heart when she jumped off that cliff in this episode, and it destroyed me. I'm like, you should have pushed her, dude. That's who you are. Why didn't you just push her? That's what you needed. You needed to grab for the ring and push her as she was struggling to get the ring back. That's what you needed to do, dude. But no. And then I go back and I think about that whole Muriel thing and I get even more angry. So those are the kinds of things that just took off a point and a point, mm-hmm. a point, a point, 1.1. So just silly things. Don't take me too seriously, folks. I thought it was a great season, especially compared to season one, because I'll be honest, there was a couple times in season one when I really got bored. And I thought, I don't know if I want to really be bored for 8 more episodes of this or not. But this season, especially Charles Edwards' performance, like you said, Eurasia, no notes. It was all good. Mm-hmm. Very well, very impressed with all of that. Adar, I suppose you could say it was just getting interesting, so that's why they had to kill him. And although I was never really interested in Adar anyway, but I will tell you
I appreciated that they gave him this opportunity of tiny redemption before he dies. Actually,
yeah, I agree with that.
He was a character that made very good points. Of course, he went about doing horrible stuff, but he made very good points. That it was, and it, it's a little bit lightweight sometimes, Rings of Power, but Adar always brought some sort of some heavy philosophical questions that I always like to have in my series.
All right. I like that too. The only thing here's the opinion that I have to get out there. It's like, if that ring will do that for Adar, imagine how much good it would do for me. Because I'm a much worse case scenario.
Well, I hate that you put pictures of me that most unflattering pictures of me, and Baba also complained about it, that you make you make the same thing. You do the same thing.
Priscilla, I'm so ugly. I have to bring everybody down to my level. That's the only way that I can survive. So with that said, there's nothing worse than me. So
you're not an orc. You should not put yourself so much down. So
you're gonna get some hate mail from Patman 23. My goodness.
He puts you down?
No,
I don't think so. He was very nice. He just disagrees with you.
He's a stand-up orc guy. Orcs are people too. That's what he says. Orcs are people too. I mean, he's taught me that. At any rate, there's nothing worse than listening to me ramble about Patman 23. So that's why we're not going to do what's worse this week. Besides, we won't have a podcast to tell you who won the competition anyway. So that's why we're skipping it. We're moving straight on into the episode discussion. We have a tiny, tiny wheel of topics. So let's give the wheel of spin, and then Priscilla will have to read it to me what it says. What does it say, Priscilla?
Númenor is a literal disaster waiting to happen.
All right. So here's where you're going to already come up against me. Come at me, sis, I guess I should say. But Arian is good now. I mean, at least when it comes to wanting to save Daddy, right?
I think for her father, like the way he phrased it to Mirio, it's like that Arian is on their side. She's a faithful now, and I'm looking at that. I was like, wait a second, who created this whole thing? Who had to open her big mouth to Pharazôn about the Palantir?
Yeah.
Now, who had to go around town, like shaking people off, saying, like, commanding the soldiers to destroy other people's home just because she is now in charge?
Yeah, she's actually picking the people to choose to wipe out. That was pretty bad.
It's like,
but at the same time, she rushes in and she saves Daddy.
Well, that's like, I think it's the minimum that she could do, because she's not saving anybody else that she put in danger. She put a whole faction of the Númenorian population in danger, dude. So I'm sorry. But I think her father thinks that now she's a good person, that she's a faithful, that she's doing the right. I don't buy it. This is like too little too late, but like, good for her. The wave is coming. You feel it.
So I guess the Valar are all upset again because the tree is shedding leaves, like a cat does on my couch. And I guess it's because Muriel is in chains.
Yeah, that was sad.
Yeah, and we saw the shot of Elendil fleeing Númenor. Headed to the west, I guess, where his other son is. Again, I can't tell which direction is west and which direction is east on that damn island. But that was the shot that he said that he saw in the Palantir. So we got that to wrap up the season. We also got to look at Narsil, which is the white flame, I think is what it called, at least by him. And then, of course, we know that eventually in the Lord of the Rings times, in Frodo's time, that the shards of Narsil will be reforged into Andúil or Andúil. I don't know how you say that exactly. Do you? At any rate, it will be the flame of the West that Elrond presents to Aragorn in Peter Jackson's movies. I don't know exactly how Aragorn gets it in the book. It's been a long time since I read Lord of the Rings. But at any rate, that was kind of cool, except for the fact, and this is the part that bothers me, Priscilla, is that if you don't know if you're not a book reader, you might be thinking, oh, well, why is it, or even if you haven't seen Peter Jackson's Return of the King, where Aragorn basically pulls Andúil out the same way that Narsil did, not an exact mirror shot, but very similar. I mean, unless you had exposure to either of those things, you might think, well, what's the significance of that? And I'm pretty sure that by the end of this series, you will feel very significant, because eventually that is the sword that will cut the ring from Sauron and disembody him. Spoiler alert. But I just imagine that a casual fan's going, well, it's a sword, big deal. I think there's a lot more stake in Muriel saying, reclaim your lordship, which I'm not even sure that most people caught most of that in season 1 either. So, it's kind of like, it seems like a big moment for loreheads and book readers and fans of Peter Jackson's films, but to a casual fan, it'll make zero sense.
Well, Elendil is actually from the line of Elrond too. So, and he was, and she was giving him the sword, so making him, and she's the queen, the legitimate queen. But one thing that they didn't have time to, or interest, because they possibly are saving that for later, is exploring the division in Númenor. There is like the west coast, the coast that is facing Valinor. Apparently, it's a refuge for the faithful.
Right.
Whereas the East Coast, it's becoming more secular, but in the sense that, not secular in the sense that we see secular, but in the sense that they are turning their back to the Valar.
Well, because Pharazôn's jealous that he doesn't get to live forever.
Pharazôn is just, I mean, it's very difficult to see how this guy has followers. I mean,
Agreed.
Season 1 made a point to show that he is actually a popular guy around town, that Muriel trusted him to do a good job being her second in command, and that he used this position to actually build himself.
Plus, his son bought her dinner, and that's always important.
Yeah. But I don't... maybe it's because people in Númenor are so dumb and so awful that at least Pharazôn has a plan and he sticks to his plan. Because Kamen, for instance, he has nothing. He hasn't had like one original thought in his whole life.
He sees a horse and says, "Hey, let's eat the horse, or I'll feed the horse. If you don't go with my way." It's like, come on, man, you're reaching, dude. But he's not here. He's on Pelargir. So
yeah, and we are going to discuss Pelargir later. I know, but it's just I'm just trying to compare how Pharazôn can possibly look like a stable, nice guy,
but doesn't that kind of speak to a larger issue? To me, Priscilla, it speaks to a larger issue in the fact that they do some bad guys so well, and then some of them they do very poorly. And I don't know if it's because of time considerations. I mean, in terms of the writing, it just feels like it's like, well, we've got to focus on this one bad guy, and we've got to make this one other bad guy interesting, so that when he turns, it'll, somebody will care. But we've got all these other bad guys. That's all right. Just let them twist their mustache, and that'll be enough.
Yeah, the bad guys, the villains, are a kind of a reflection of the plot. The Númenor's plot has been the weakest link for some time.
Yeah.
Right there with the Southlands, but the Southlands plot had Ada. Ada was a compelling character. And Númenor, the only, Muriel and Elendil are great.
Yeah.
And, but we don't have a compelling villain there. And that makes the whole plot, the narrative they are trying to establish, that people are actually, that Pharazôn is actually more is seen in a better regard than Muriel by a great portions of the population there. It seems like, really?
Yeah, I tell you what, every time Númenor comes on, my first instinct is to be just like Bubba's main podcast host and just say, skip ahead. That's Kit Fish's favorite phrase. So it becomes mine when that comes on, because chances are, outside of maybe a good moment from Muriel or a good moment from Elendil, I'm not going to get anything satisfying out of it. That's just me. That's something that probably also brought my rating down.
Here.
Yeah. Anything else on Numenor? Is there any other point? I mean, I know I dominated a lot of just silly points. So
No, what did Baba say?
it got the justice it
Skip
deserves.
ahead.
Yeah, skip ahead. Catfish says skip ahead, and so shall we. Except we say spin the wheel. Where did it land, Priscilla? Where did it land?
Elrond librarian. Oh my god, I cannot even read. I'm slowly.
Well, the lettering is so small.
I cannot read it. Yeah. It's too small. You should make this letter bigger. It's better.
We can't afford a bigger wheel, so that's why it has to be that way. The wheel is in fact microscopic, so small that you can't even see it on our YouTube videos. But Elrond the librarian, and this was about the whole burning of the scrolls thing, because as somebody who has an MLIS degree myself, I am horrified by the thought of the destruction of information. That's something that I was as equally horrified as Elrond was. But there's something else about that actually bothered me more. And that is the fact that, throughout the course of time, people have argued about whether there is some kind of one-to-one analogy or an allegory, so to speak, of Tolkien's work and the rise of Nazism and what have you. Now, we can say here in the United States, I mean, we're not that far from burning books here ourselves in some places. Lots of libraries are getting books banned because of public vote. And, if you're going to respect democracy, you have to respect the vote. But at the same time, how can you have a democracy if people aren't fully informed? How can you have a true democracy? So it's kind of like this double-edged sword in a way. But the burning of books and things like that are so associated with Nazi fascism and those kinds of horrific acts. I know that Tolkien even wrote, I think in his introduction to Lord of the Rings, something about the fact that he hated allegory. He didn't want you to relate it to just one thing. And I feel like these showrunners have gone just a little step too far. That didn't have to be there. You could show them destroying his tools, what have you, like that, because that's an act of war where you're trying to keep people from being able to come back on you. But this one just kind of crossed the line for me too much into the allegory stage and abandoned what Tolkien called applicability. And applicability means that you have a situation, and throughout the course of time, in the history of the past and in the possibility of the future, there can be something similar, something that will resonate. And that's something that makes great works great, because every generation can find something new to relate to with it, rather than just some kind of forced theme. And there are themes in Tolkien, of course. There are a lot of Christian themes in Tolkien, but it just, I'm sorry, I don't mean to go on such a rant about this, but it just feels like by doing things like this, they're destroying the one part of Tolkien that they had upheld very well. And that is, they're destroying, with a scene like this, they're destroying the spirit of Tolkien. And I felt like that this series, regardless of whether you think the lore matches up or not, or if any of that bothers you, the spirit of Tolkien has been there for me. That type of writing, those types of eucatastrophes, these kinds of things, I'm all good with. I'm not willing to call Arondir a eucatastrophe, where the hole in his stomach just suddenly closes up. But I am willing to say, that I've been very cool with them trying to just keep the spirit of Tolkien. And this feels like a complete destruction of that. And again, it's just one thing. And again, I'm just being very nitpicky. So I know you can get at me on that.
I had no, not an opposite reading of the situation, but I just didn't see anything the way you saw.
Huh.
So I completely disagree with you. I think the scene, it starts with them destroying Feanor's statue there, and then they are ripping up books and scrolls. It's just to show, in my opinion, when they were looking for a Feanor's hammer, I think. I don't know. But they don't care. They are orcs. It's just like another an image to show you that, the series spent a long time showing you that the orcs, they were not asked to be created in the first place, that they should have possibly rights to live in this land, just like elves. And the other side of the equation, from the elves' point of view, no, you should never have been created in the first place. So why are you here? So the series has made a point of having this discussion. And season 2, you have seen that there are baby orcs, there are baby families, which is something that Tolkien confirmed that exists, female orcs, and that they reproduce, and blah, blah, blah. And so at the end, they make a decision about a like they are self-determining that what they will become without other, and that is that they are going to actually, yes, we are we are an evil horde from now on. That's what we do. So they are the opposite of the elves. So when they go to Eregion, they don't have any sort of idea of, okay, we can keep the city for ourselves, maybe. No, they want to destroy everything. And that's what they do.
Yeah.
Because in war, like if you are invading another nation, you will actually repopulate, possibly, and take over that city for the long run. They don't want that. They are going to they are salting the earth. They are communicating to us that they are completely against the elves now, completely against the elvish culture. They don't want anything to do with that. And that's their culture is a war culture. That's what they are there. So that's what I read. I read from the scene in particular. And that comes like they are against culture, they are against science, they are against art, they don't create, so they have no respect for creativity. They are destruction force. That's what I got.
Okay. First of all, Patman23 on the site, formerly known as Twitter. I want to tell you, you can find at Priscilla TV1 on YouTube. You can leave comments in Portuguese, please, on her YouTube channel and tell her what a horrible orc hater she is. Second, I still look at this because I don't care that who the act is done by. It's still the act. And I look at who benefits from it. Who benefits from it? Sauron. All of the information about how the rings were created gets destroyed. All of the artifacts about anything regarding elf lore gets destroyed. Sauron benefits from all of this. And he is a domineering, evil leader. Who does that remind me of? Well, when you put it in this context, of course it reminds you of Hitler. You could, though, if you use Tolkien's applicability, apply it to any number of Roman emperors. You could apply it to any number of kings of years old or recent presidents. That's the thing that bothered me about it. But I get your point. And if you saw it that way,
I completely disagree again. Sauron has nothing to do with Hitler. He is like...
But he benefits from it. You can also say that, well, Hitler didn't tell those guys to burn those books, but they did it.
Sauron is a very hot guy with very awful ideas. He's a terrible person because he's not a person actually. So he cannot sympathize, he cannot empathize with us because he's above us. And that's his downfall, actually. And that's something that we see in Celebrimbor. When they are speaking, that Celebrimbor said, like, you helped create the rings, but you are the prisoner of the rings, you know. And Sauron is his own worst enemy because he does not appreciate creation in a way that he thinks he appreciates creation. He actually has no respect for it because he claims that with Celebrimbor that it was a very good time that they spent together, that he learned a lot from it. But what is knowledge if you don't share? He's hoarding knowledge, which is actually something that, remember, Game of Thrones in the last season, when what is the name of the Bran became this human computer machine, like the three-eyed raven, that he could go back and forth through time and see what was happening. Remember that?
Yeah. But he was also sharing that information.
Was he? He wasn't.
I thought he was. I thought he was telling, people.
No. You have to remember.
At Winterfell?
He didn't. When the war started, he didn't give people any information that could be used for the actually war preparations, because he was holding up for the vision that he would become king in the end. So that's supposed that, okay, I cannot share anything.
Dr. Strange looked at millions of and billions of possible futures, and there was only one way to save them from So is Dr. Strange a Hitler?
Or the whole thing about the Citadel, that it was like the repository of knowledge. They just hoarded the knowledge with the Maesters. So it's not really, it's not democratic. You can make a point, you can just go there and destroy everything.
Well, what did you think about Elrond, since we're here on Elrond? What did you think about him finally bucking up and putting a ring on?
Yeah, I think this is foreshadowing that he in future will put a ring on somebody else. No, it's not the foreshadowing that he will get married at some point. But it's definitely an evolution of his opinion. So you have a very good narrative direction with him. He started out completely against it. Then Círdan talks him into the path of forgiveness, to forgive Galadriel for this whole huge mistake. Once he forgives Galadriel, he recognizes that actually, yes, we can use that for good. So I really like it. I just like it that the rings are this MacGuffin now, which is another thing that I found extremely diselegant. I don't know, unelegant. The showrunners do, which is reducing things to, this MacGuffin. Yes, you can argue that Tolkien wrote the biggest MacGuffin story ever, which is just like a tale of people coming together and going to destroy this MacGuffin in the end. But it was actually so much more than that. But here in the Rings of Power, you put this ring and you immediately got a glow up. You put this ring and you can save somebody's life. And it's not supposed to be used that way. And I understand that dramatically it informs the audience that it's not me, that it's not Tolkien fan, that this ring is very powerful. Can't you see that like the good that this ring can bring, I understand that completely, but I really think they could have slowed down with this thing, with just like Elrond just putting the ring and then supposedly him Galadriel off screen.
Right. Yeah. Him and Gil-galad using the rings to draw the power away from her. Also, the thing that I took, I think, is the fact that they used those rings to create kind of a Sauron-free zone or a darkness-free zone in the area that they were at. And I'm assuming that that's going to be the place where Rivendell will eventually be. A lot of the geography looks very similar.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But that's very lore accurate. That's how it was created.
Right.
And the rings the rings actually they protect the lands. Actually,
right.
Galadriel has one, and she protects Lorien. Círdan had one, but then he gave away to Gandalf, and Elrond has one, so he protects Rivendell.
Right. So I guess, does he get Gil-galad's ring? Is that what happens?
Yes.
Okay.
He gets Gil-galad's, yeah.
All right. Well, that makes sense because you don't hear anything about Linden in any of the Hobbit or the Lord of the Rings, I don't think, except in the appendices, I suppose. So that makes sense. Well, anything else on Elrond before we spin the wheel again?
No. He's very good looking. I really like him.
Very good. This is how Priscilla judges all of her characters. It doesn't matter whether he killed a baby or not. He's very good looking, and I like him. No, you're not. You're not that shallow. I know you're not. All right.
No, I just want to put it out there that I really I appreciate that Robert Aramayo is a very good actor, and that he's making Elrond into this very incredibly cute and sympathetic, empathetic elf that I really like to see on screen.
And he's really hot. Not as hot as Charlie Vickers, but really hot.
So he landed on Pelargir.
Pelargir. The home of the greatest character ever written, Theo. Oh, it's so good to be able to talk about Theo. See, he is a good guy. He's doing all the right things now. He's going to be a leader of men. He's going to fight against Sauron. He's not going to be Sauron's dupe. He's going to be just fine. He's a good guy. That's what I say. Isildur likes him, although I don't know if you could say too much lore-wise about Isildur that would make that a positive. Let's see. The other thing is my other note, my one note, is I don't know why Isildur didn't just kill Kemen right there on the spot. Threatening to eat his damn horse.
I think it would have been a very good improvement. It would be an improvement on everybody's life at this point if Kemen was just no longer there.
And it's going to happen.
But I think what is going to happen,
he's going to be the one guy standing on the brow when the wave comes?
No, I don't think he will die in Númenor. Actually, I think Kemen is going to weasel his way out, and actually, because Pharazôn hates him so much that Pharazôn is going to just give him lordship over Pelargir or whatever to get him out of his way, and that he eventually will become one of the 9. Because some of the 9 were Númenorians also.
Yeah, at least 2.
So yes, exactly. So we have one big candidate here. And Theo should also be counted.
But he's not Númenorian.
No.
He can't be the other one.
He should also be counted as one candidate for being the 9, because remember, Sauron has it, so he will have to give these rings to people. And we have now 2 lords, 2 human lords in Middle-earth.
The Theohate is
It,
just disgusting.
it's also very good because then they can stick around until 5th season. Otherwise, they would die. So, good deal.
All right. So
just putting it out there, just a theory. I don't know. Don't get angry if this doesn't pan out. But
we're gonna hold it to you by the letter, Priscilla, because that's what we do on this podcast.
Give me all the credit if it will happen this way, but if it doesn't, just say, "Oh, it was a good theory." Yeah, no, just say it was a good theory.
That's what everybody else does. What we do out here is just say, "Look, we got this, this theory, and we know it's wrong, but we're going to say it anyway." That's what we do around here. So it's
good.
Yeah. What about Isildur and Estrid? She would have totally gone on that boat if Kemen hadn't been such a butthole. She doesn't care about this guy that she's with at all, which is quite evident throughout their little scenes together where he tries to hold her hand and she won't.
I don't even know. Are they together? I was confused.
Yeah.
Wasn't he there in the scene when she said that she would go with Isildur? I don't. What?
Yeah, he was there and he was quite disgusted by it. But then when she was rejected, the other guy just said, "Okay, well, you're still here, so you're stuck with me." Ha ha. And the whole thing was just weird. Let's just put it that way. It was just.
I agree with you. It was very weird.
It was just weird.
And I think Pharazôn is really trying to get rid of Kemen because of Kemen's curse. That's my whole reading of the situation.
Probably a good call there on that.
Yeah, one. Remember that Pharazôn told him, "No, you know what? Your mother just foretold that your future is not a bright one, dude. Actually, it's the opposite. You are the worst." So I really think that he's like, "Okay, Kemen, maybe get away from here. I don't want your curse to be transferred to me."
Exactly. Yeah. If you're cursed, stay as far away from me as possible.
Yes. So it's like COVID.
Anything else on this?
Yeah, I'm not sure if we are going to see a time jump from this season to the next, that we are going to see Pelargir becoming a bigger city than it is now. But it would be interesting if this happened, actually.
Well, with Kemen in charge, they'll build that place up in no time, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Kemen is like a very, very trusted and admired leader.
Such a capable leader.
Yeah.
Let's spin the wheel.
So, his name is Gandalf.
Who'd have thought? Yeah. They tried a little bit too hard to do the whole mystery box thing with something that was as, they didn't even do it cleverly, Don't you have a Grandelf? I mean, all of it was just silly.
It was cringy until the end. I really liked the end with Tom Bombadil, but other than that, the whole thing was like it was very hard to salvage.
Are you kidding me? That was so lame, Tom Bombadil. Oh well, you didn't achieve anything, so let's sing a song.
I thought you liked the actor.
I love Rory Kinnear, and I do like Tom Bombadil. But
no, I really like the portrait of Tom Bombadil here. I think it matches. He's a little bit whimsical, but not actually silly. He has all this power, so he's just a guy who wants to, sing his song and hang around his things and have a good time. Yeah.
Yeah. But at the same time, he told Gandalf that it was his mission to defeat both the Dark Wizard and Sauron. And then basically left him saying, "You go find your staff," which wasn't even in a place where he left him. And Gandalf had to find it on his own, which, of course, Bombadil then conveniently later says, "Oh, you don't find the staff. The staff finds you." It's like the wand chooses the wizard, just like in Harry Potter. Thank you very much, J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay. That's just brilliant. Too bad J.K. Rowling beat you to it. So Nori, and this is where you said earlier about what are they going to do? Are they going to string the hobbits along? They should just dismiss them. They have an out to me to dismiss them because Nori says, "Hey, look, we've been together. We've had fun. I'm going to go do my own thing." Okay. So and like you said, that's going to strain it even more because Númenor's still there. Now we have Pelargir. If we have these hobbits running around doing whatever, we still have Sauron and Bombadil and Dark Wizard in the east. We've got whatever, or not Sauron, Gandalf. We have whatever the elves are going to be doing, whatever Sauron's going to. That's 7 storylines. 7. You can't. If you've only got 8 episodes to tell a story, you cannot possibly maintain 7 storylines within it and make any one of them remotely interesting. Or even if you try to cover everything, you're going to give everybody whiplash going back and forth between them so much.
I would love that the showrunners understood that. I would love just cut the losses here with the hobbits. You already told the story. We already understood. Nice. Thank you for that. They were lovely. But let's focus on the story.
But we've got to find that third tribe. We've got to find that third tribe. That's what they're sitting there saying in the writer's room. And I'm going, do we? Now I sound like a Hobbit hater, a Harfoot hater, a double H, but I'm not. I love them. I love them so much that I want them to go off on their own adventure and me not have to worry about them.
Okay, so the guy is Gandalf. Gandalf spends a lot of time by himself, actually, walking from one place to the other. He doesn't have a home by itself. He's not like other, so I think that their thought process is like, he needs a sidekick.
Yeah, I guess that's what the case is. But
yeah, if he needs a sidekick, then okay, Nori and Gandalf go on their adventures. Again, stop with the hobbits. Just leave one?
Can it just be Gandalf and Tom Bombadil? That would be much more interesting to me. They could sing songs. You could do 6 check-ins with them throughout the course of an 8-episode season where they're just sitting down in front of a campfire singing songs and talking about where they're going. Yeah. doing my angel is a cinephile, the Jay Giles band song. Yeah, which was the thing I complained about earlier in the season. Callbacks are fun in podcasts. I don't know. I've got nothing else for this storyline.
Honestly, can we? I have a question. I don't want to talk about them.
Oh, I do have one question though.
Okay.
And this is probably going to set you off. I'm betting this sets you off. The Dark Wizard says, "Oh yeah, remember you convinced me and all of these guys to come over here. So why does Gandalf come in a fireball if all the other guys are supposed to just come across there? Do they not know how to sail? Does Gandalf get seasick? How does he make it to Valinor in the end if he gets seasick?" You probably had a lot of trouble with all of this. The thing is, since it's the Dark Wizard, do we know if he's even telling the truth at that point?
Well, he's a wizard. He is a Maya, like Sauron is,
right?
Because Gandalf is also. They are from the same type of people.
Yeah, but I mean, just the whole backstory about
with different powers, different abilities, different stages of development. Apparently, my only hope is that like they cannot tell me this is Saruman, because Saruman only turns evil, and it's a big discovery that he turned evil during the trilogy. So they cannot spoil what it will happen in the trilogy.
See, that's interesting to me, because in PJ's Hobbit book or movies, they alluded to the fact that Saruman was already starting to turn.
Yes, but this is like, agree with me, this is for an age, so it won't. And at that point, people were like, "Oh, Saruman is okay." They didn't know it was a surprise for them that Saruman was actually breeding orcs himself, according to Peter Jackson. So it will spoil the surprise that Saruman has turned, and that because he has turned, Gandalf takes the mantle that was supposed to be Saruman. But that's a third age thing. So he cannot be Saruman. And if he is Saruman, then it's like, okay, then what happened? Everybody just loses their memory.
Sure. Just wipe the protocol droid's mind at the end of Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, and the whole thing about their backstory, that Gandalf convinced them, as you said, I don't trust this guy to tell me the truth. I trust him to be saying, "Oh, we are all friends. Remember that you told me to come here." And blah, blah, blah. That's more of my reading to it. And the whole thing about the meteor, actually, they would go by boat, actually, from Valinor. Or in the beginning, they had a floating island, actually. So a meteor is a show-only creation that I have to say, it was quite an entrance. So I appreciate that they said, okay, a boat trip won't cut it. We need to put a meteor here. I think it's better. And the meteor has all this symbolism, because like farming societies, they looked at this like omens coming from, so right. I understand. I don't see that much of a problem, to be honest. And the whole memory lost, Gandalf, when he returned, as I said again, he returned a little bit like, "Oh yeah, what was I great before? Oh, okay, nice."
Right.
It's a wizardry, it's magic, it's stuff that happens,
Gotcha. It looks like to me that we only have 2 topics left, so I don't know if there's a point in spinning the wheel. How about I just let you choose between Sauron or Khazad-dûm? Which do you want to talk? All right. Sauron. So you brought up a very interesting point about Sauron and how basically he's cut off, and because of that, he tries to keep everybody else cut off as well, in terms of knowledge and what have you. And the whole point about Celebrimbor's little final speech about how he's a prisoner he's the Lord of the Rings. Thanks. And I thought Celebrimbor's death was good. I suppose that the spear and raising him up like that was kind of a tribute to the whole banner thing that's in the lore.
Yes.
I don't know if they'll have I don't know if they'll have a prosthetic body of Celebrimbor walking around with Sauron's armies or not, or on a pole. If they do that, well, it'll be true to the lore, but not something I really want to see. But all the arrows and everything, that was all good. And the thing that got me was to get to that. Well, actually, it was mostly a Galadriel thing. But the very first look at Eregion at the time, with all of the orcs coming in and everything, that's one of the best one-shots I've ever seen. I'm assuming that it was completely a one-shot. much like the way that they do those 360s in Game of Thrones or what have you, where you see all this stuff. But this was way better than that, especially with the stunt person doing the jumping off the roof and sliding down and all of that. If that was stitched in any way, it fooled the crap out of me. So hats off just to the filmmaking of that. I just thought that was excellent. And I'm not a big action guy, but that told quite a story. And then to see Galadriel fighting and thought all of that was super cool. What about Sauron struck you this time? And please don't tell me that he doesn't want Galadriel, because you're not going to convince me.
I'm not trying to. You seem to have a very strong opinion about it, so I will leave you to your strong opinion. I think at this time and place, that's you. You do you. But it's like a sociopath.
Sauron is hot. Like, you do you.
This guy cannot be in love with anybody. He's incapable. So I think when Celebrimbor dies, and he says that he's kind of like saying, look what you're making me do it, because Sauron is always blame victim there.
Yeah.
When it was actually his choice of torturing Celebrimbor, doing all this stuff. And he has a couple of seconds that he managed to get an honest feeling about it, that you see he's crying and you are wondering, is he crying because he killed a person that he thought that it could be his friend, that he somehow considered to be his friend? Or he's really buying into the idea that people are forcing him to do these things, so he's crying for himself. But then Glug comes, and Glug asks, are you Sauron? And the first thing that he does is like, whoa, I'm making a new friend now. So he starts his seducing, his convincing of the orcs by giving the orcs their humanity. So he asks, what's your name? For Glug. And this is the behavior of a psychopath, a sociopath. So he is not in love with Galadriel. He wants to have her. That is different. He wants to have Galadriel because Galadriel is a powerful elf that will give him
more. The hair. It's nothing to do with their power. It's the hair.
No, her hair is a sign that she's a power. The elves were crazy about hair. So
right. So the power of the elf's hair is just to attract people like Sauron. That's all it's good for.
Beauty, that's what you have to understand. Beauty was a huge thing for Tolkien. Beauty in the elves, kind of like it was a translation of their souls. It was a translation of their power. They were always like, he's always like the most powerful, tall, much beautiful than the others. Their hair glows. They have this sort of amazing eye that people talk about it. So that Sauron has to have Galadriel because Galadriel is the best of the lot. And that's the point. His possession is not that he likes her. He might see, okay, this girl has a promise, but the only promise that he's interested is an alliance to him under him. So he's not crushing on anybody.
Okay, I'll give in for a moment, but I'll keep my disagreeing with you in my inner ears, and as opposed to saying it out. I was startled by Galadriel's choice, and I love that shot too. when she chose to just fall off the cliff. When she pulled the Luke Skywalker, or when Luke Skywalker pulled the Galadriel, or whatever, I just thought that was pretty amazing, and that was the best way to hurt Sauron.
But it was exactly what it was like a callback to Elrond in the first episode. Elrond did the same to save the ring.
Well, he was trying to save the elves.
Yes, the fact that the elves from the ring, and it's just like
now she's trying to save the ring.
No, it's just like they have the circular so the circular narrative. So first episode, Adar convinced the orcs to betray Sauron. They stab Sauron until he explodes. This last episode, Sauron convinces the orcs to betray Adar. Adar doesn't explode, supposedly because he turned good. At the last moment, he will be welcomed to Mandos. Let's see. Elrond is trying to run away with the rings because he thinks the rings are evil, and he jumps off of a cliff. And Galadriel, in the first episode, Galadriel does that in the last episode. So this I liked. I just wish that and I also like that she lands in a pile of leaves, so that's what they are going to explain. That's why she didn't die.
Well, she kind of hit a tree. A tree kind of slowed her down as she went.
Yeah,
I don't think trees actually slow people down, but maybe they slow elves down enough to where they survive a fall like that.
Elves, they have a bigger.
Well, just look at Arondir. I mean, he can get stabbed right through the middle of his body and be walking just fine as a prisoner, and then later on as a, just.
It will be great when Arondir has to fight Theo as one of the ring bearers, like the 9. It'll be a great dramatic moment.
Well, I'll be rooting for Theo. Because Theo's doing the right thing. Theo's a good dude. Everybody is completely wrong about Theo. He's going to be a hero of this story. It just depends on, villains also think that they're the heroes of their own story. So it'll depend. At any rate, I'm glad you brought up the whole Adar Glug thing. There were moments where I just totally disliked Adar, and I was actually rooting for Glug, which pains me a great deal to say, because that meant that I was aligned with Patman23, my nemesis on the internet. But nonetheless, then when he pulled this shtick, acting all injured and everything, and preying on Adar's compassion, that was low blow, Glug. And Adar's stupid for falling for it, and Glug, of course, he ends up not doing any better by the end of the episode too, because Sauron sticks him like a shish kebab as well. So
Sauron makes Glug's wife a widow.
He does, and Glug's baby a fatherless little orc. I guess Sauron will have to step in. He'll do his humanity thing. He'll humanize them and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry that Glug lost his life in battle. What can I do? Let me raise your son to be one of the chief orcs." Yeah. You've canceled my point about Sauron is crushing on Galadriel. He wants to make her his queen. He would have destroyed the world to make her his queen. Galadriel, you just can't you see what Priscilla sees? That Sauron is the hottest being on Earth, on Middle Earth, and needs to be.
I just think that he is a very interesting build character in the series, because we didn't have anything to go for about Sauron in the original telling. He was just like an evil dude that it was actually non-corporeal, or he was so, He was just a presence. He wasn't a character. So I really like that he's now a character, and that he's such an interesting one. They could have gone in different ways with Sauron, make him more malevolent or make him more slimy, but the notes that they are hitting is like
playing with Mirdania's hair was slimy.
The notes that they're hitting with him are more to this guy has a plan. He has a way of convincing people to do his bidding.
Mm-hmm.
And if he cannot convince people, he will just eliminate them. And he reads people. He knows where to get to people, and he adapts to that. So with Celebrimbor was all about massaging Celebrimbor ego and convincing Celebrimbor that he was the only guy that could save Middle Earth, potentially. With Mirdania was flirting with Mirdania and convincing her that what she was doing was actually protecting Celebrimbor from himself. And with Galadriel, that's the point. He tries to get to Galadriel's flaws and weaknesses as he sees. So the first season, it was about her brother. So he took the shape of her brother, and this is what really broke Galadriel. He couldn't read her. He really thought that he could when he couldn't. And when he says now, your mind is still open, she's like, of course my mind will be open, stupid. Like, there is this ring and you're fucking Sauron, but that doesn't mean that I don't have a choice. I'm smarter than that.
What else you got on the Sauron before we move on to Khazad-dûm?
I'm really not looking forward to Sauron to lose his fair form, which is also very bad because of the time compression, because we are going to see the fall of Númenor. And if Sauron is there and he falls with him, then he wouldn't have time to actually compose himself. So until the end of the last battle. So we are not going to see Charlie Vickers again.
No more hot Sauron? Just
Yeah,
CGI Sauron?
Just a strange Sauron, or Sauron maybe in the shadows and making illusions to people that he's still hot, but he's not.
Somehow I think, because it is Amazon and because the studio execs seem to dictate everything that goes badly with any series there, I got a feeling that they'll find a way to directly involve Sauron in everything. You'll see. You're not going to be deprived of your Charlie Vickers moments. They'll find a way around that. Khazad-dûm. So again, as I mentioned earlier, the showrunners have said the Balrog's not just like this single event, which I'm cool with. I don't care, and that this is just the beginning. I don't know if that was to keep lore people from going crazy or what have you, because I don't think Durin the Third ever faced the Balrog. I don't even know if Durin the Fourth did. That's all fine and well. I don't care about that. And there's a point where he says, send the message to Elrond that the dwarves are ready to help now. And then Narvi says, now hang on a second. We got a bunch of this. We got this. We got this. We got this. We got all these things here that we need to take care of. And Durin's got this look on his face like, wow, I've really stepped in it now, haven't I? So you could say, like in one of PJ's films, Elrond, I think it's right before the Council of Elrond, when he's talking to Gandalf, he says the dwarves hide in their mountains, which, with this abandonment, that makes perfect sense. But at the same time, he says that to Gandalf after, in PJ's films, Gandalf and the dwarves, Durin and all of them, Thorin, Oakenshield and all of them with Bilbo come and visit Rivendell. And he welcomes them and feeds them and reads their little moon, the things that we saw Celebrimbor make, the runes, the moon runes. So there's inconsistencies even in PJ's films. But I'm just wondering, is it are the dwarf storyline and the elf storyline going to be completely separate from now on? Because just a check-in scene with Durin fighting a Balrog every third episode isn't going to do it for me. I care too much about these dwarves. They've done such a great job building them up. And they've done a great job building up how they interact with the rest of the world around them. So I want them to destroy PJ's lines and lore and whatever. I want them to get Elrond and Durin back to being friends again for a minute, at least. Is that going to happen?
The most important part of this last episode to the dwarves is the fact that Daddy Durin left the ring. And the second fact is that the other dwarf lords they already paid for the rings.
Yeah, they don't have their rings yet.
They already paid for the rings.
Oh, okay.
And Durin cannot afford to just give them refunds or vouchers because he will have to face off his brother.
Okay.
In a fight for the crown. So that will force him to give these rings to the other lords.
Gotcha.
And possibly either for some time his brother gets power and gets the ring, or he will be forced to use the ring himself. And also the first season, Durin was fighting with his father because his father refused to help the elves, because his father made a point. My first concern should be the dwarves. I cannot go there. It's very possible that now that Durin is in his father's shoes, that he has not renegade on the alliance with Elrond, but the whole friendship with Elrond has to come second to his duties as a king. So that is the most important things that I took from this plot.
Yeah.
And in this sense, I think the way they did close the narrative was a very good one. If not rushed, of course, because we are speaking about a 1-hour episode that has to close several narratives and set up things for a third season. But it was okay. It was good. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the whole exchange between Daddy Durin and Dummy Durin. Not Dummy. I'm just kidding. But Durin a third facing off against the Balrog, which he knew was not going to go well, and he knew was not going to go well. But him even having the power to take the ring off was kind of a nice moment.
It was.
To me. Yeah. So I think that was, fairly moving. The Balrog looked great, looked very much like Peter Jackson's Balrog, which I'm cool with. If they want to do that, if they have the rights to do that, then that's cool with me. And there wasn't a whole lot more there for me. There was the emotion of father and son. That was cool. And like you said, it was a little too quick. But it does lead me to ponder about, is this the end of Elrond and Durin's relationship, and how do I process that? And I'm going to dislike it.
I would say that they are going to have some crisis, but we know for the lore that the dwarves will be there in the last battle, so the last alliance.
Oh, so we got to wait till season 5 for a reunion?
No, possibly before that.
Okay. All right. What else? Do you have anything else on the dwarves?
No, I just hope that they stop eating bread from last year. Now that Durin is king.
Yeah. It's going to be kind of hard to get anybody to trade with you if people say, well, his army didn't show up. What good is his word? He doesn't have any mithril to deal because he's got to close that hole in order to keep the Balrog at bay. So he's penniless, not worth trading with. Maybe his mirrors will still work. Maybe that'll be the one.
He's not penniless. Like the other dwarves, lords paid him tributes to his father. So,
yeah.
And the whole point, it was his father was getting greedy and pocketing all the money or overtaxing their people. So poor Durin is not.
Okay. Well, poor me for having to see a breakup between Durin and Elrond. And with that, let's go to 3 words. Priscilla, how would you describe this episode in 3 words?
It's kind of like 4, but hobbits can't spell.
You used a contraction. How dare you?
Yeah.
You used a contraction. The golden rule has been broken. With the golden rule that you didn't know about. Long live Celebrimbor is my 3 words because great speech as the last speech. Celebrimbor, way to go! You had 2.
It was you made us proud, Brimby.
Yeah, you restored my faith in you. You weren't an idiot. It just took you a minute to get there. So we don't have any 3 words submissions from anybody for this episode or the last episode. No surprise there. I do very little to promote it either on the site formerly known as Twitter or even on this podcast. But next time, it's only 2 years away. Start thinking of your 3 words for season 3, episode 1, or you can spend the entire 2 years thinking of 3-word descriptions for any of these episodes of season 2. Hell, you can give me one for season 1. I don't care. Just send me 3 words at the letter B, the number 4, at Bus Blockbuster on the site formerly known as Twitter. As I've gone into 3 words automatic mode, and I immediately talk about my House of the Dragon podcast instead of this one. Sorry about that, folks. Ring of Power gets awarded to whoever or whatever storyline we want. So what was your Ring of Power awarded to this time around?
Eregion, because it was really, Eregion was to season 2 what Khazad-dûm was to season 1, I think. It was the storyline that flowed and that like the highs were very high. So
okay, I can do that. For this particular episode, I'm giving mine to Durin the Third, because that line about Durin the Fourth, just basically getting stronger. It was you know, that was cool. And then jumping towards the Balrog, all epic. But for the season, I want to give Sauron the award because it was the most compelling story. I mean, it just absolutely was. Anything Sauron did was compelling, except for playing with Merdania's hair. Did you have a season award, or do you also give that to Eregion?
No, this was my season award.
Oh, this was your season award. Well, what was your episode award?
Oh, that would be Galadriel, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. I
Just for
mean,
taking a leap?
no, she fought, she held her own against Sauron. She was not supposed to. If I think Sauron would have defeated her in a 1-1. That's just my opinion. But anyway, she was good.
Yeah. Yeah, he would have defeated her in all arenas. He's hotter than she is. We got some feedback for last week's episode on the site formerly known as Twitter. Harley Camille, our friend Camille, who is a loyal listener. That's what we call double L's. She says, episode 7 was so intense. Poor Elrond looked so betrayed at the end. I love Durin. I don't want their friendship to end. Neither do I, Camille.
Yeah, we don't want that to end. Yeah. Nobody
wants that, but it's gonna happen. So then for episode 7, we also got some comments on YouTube. This one, a long one, from Tails Yuki, who says, I've been really enjoying the show so far, but this last episode, again, meaning episode 7, was the first that I didn't really like. I know Sauron has his thing, but with all due respect, why are elves so stupid in this show? Why is there some 3,000 plus guys acting like completely immature idiots? Arondir's plan is stupid. Galadriel simply told every single thing to Adar and nothing in response. Absolutely stupid. It feels like they have things they want to happen in the show, so they move the character in a way, even if it's a huge disservice. I don't know, man. Conflicting, as I said before. First episode, I didn't really like. We didn't really see the Galadriel eating. This was in response to my talking about orc food. But the food that was given to her was not the same as Adar. Adar was eating meat, and elves don't normally do that. The food offered to Galadriel was some kind of green, wasn't it? Grapes, actually, is what she was eating, or was what was in front of her. Am I tripping? And no, you're not tripping. I was doing a bit, tells Yuki. I was just doing a bit. Don't care whether she ate anything or not. Tells Yuki goes on to say, I saw this theory that maybe Adar will try to use the ring and it will free him from Morgoth's corruption, making him a free elf again. Ding, 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 ding. You saw the right theory. It actually worked out that way, even though that ended up killing him. Tells Yuki goes on to say, I do love Adar. He's such an interesting concept. I wonder if he's even older than Círdan, and it is very likely, in my opinion. Now, I know that you guys had an exchange, Priscilla. You and Tails Yuki then had an exchange about that. Did you agree or disagree with this whole thing about him being older than Círdan?
I don't think I agreed or disagree necessarily. I just noted that, like, he mentions Melian, which was a Maya that was in Middle Earth. Oh, okay. At the time where the elves were supposed to travel to Valinor, they were supposed to leave Middle Earth. To cut the story short, the Valar sent emissaries to Middle Earth to convince the elves to leave. Thing is, Morgoth had come earlier, saying that he was sent by the Valar, and he actually started corrupting them to create the orcs. So when the real emissaries came, many elves were distrustful, and they did not accept the invitation to go back. And the ones that said, okay, maybe we should check it out, they were sent to Valinor. So 3 of them were sent to Valinor to check if that was the right thing to do. So they went to Valinor, they came back. And when they came back, they were supposed actually to go walking from where they were until the coastline, so they could actually jump to this island, this floating island, to go to Valinor. But one of their leaders, which will become a great king called Elutingo, he got lost and he found this Maya that was Melian. They fell in love and they married. So this means that if Adar met Melian, and he actually said, I think he mentions about her being a queen or something like that. So that means that he is very old, but not necessarily that he was one of the first elves. We can assume he was one of the first elves because he originated the orcs. But it's strange that if he originated the orcs, how could he met Melia? So I don't know.
Gotcha.
And I cannot make any clear statement or about where Ada was born or how long ago he was born. So I would just, since Ada died, I will respectfully ask everybody to let's just remember Ada, how he was in the last moment when he was with the rings and not before. And let's not think much about his tortured life. Poor guy.
Yeah.
And bad decisions.
Speaking of bad decisions, this next piece of feedback reflects one of mine. The Flying Mook says, so glad you guys addressed the kiss. Everyone is overreacting completely. And I agree. I thought that everybody was overreacting. We pointed that out numerous times in the beginning, in the end, of the last few moments of the podcast last week. So glad. Thanks for endorsing our talking about it. At the same time, I'm the guy that completely overreacted over Medania getting her hair played with by Sauron. So
that's true.
It does nothing but turn me into a hypocrite. Is exactly what that does. So again, the way that this podcast wins is when things go bad for me, and even in being right, I was completely wrong in another way. This is what happens. Just like when we have polls regarding our what's worse questions from last week. What's worse? Running hundreds of miles nonstop to defeat a orc who ends up beating you, not killing you, obviously, duh, or having to jump on the face of a troll whose breath is likely worse than Galadriel's right now. Damrod Dinner Breath, that's a double D breath, won 80% to 20%. It's almost like one person voted for Priscilla and the other four voted for me.
Wow. Yeah.
And then our other what's worse poll is what's worse, giving up Galadriel's ring to Adar, as Elrond had to, or having to kiss Galadriel after she's probably had to be eating orc food for the last couple of weeks. So this is the thing that Tells Yuki got on me on. So it also makes me look terrible, even though I won by saying that Galadriel's breath.
You were obsessed with that. So the people that voted they were also obsessed with it.
Yes. So 77.8% told Priscilla that she was wrong last week when she argued the point that giving up Galadriel's ring to Adar was worse, even though Priscilla's right. Remember, even when Priscilla's wrong, she's right. That's number 2, as opposed to number 1. Priscilla is always right. And B, shut up, Matt. Priscilla is always right. So, final poll that we're going to do for this season is to rate last week's episode, the final results. I did put a poll out for this week. Please vote on it, but I'm not going to give you the results because I'm always scared that when I give new results, they'll just reflect the same old results. So here are our final results, which do reflect increased voting. 47.8% of you thought episode 7 was great. 21.7% of you thought it was good. I finally, after me complaining about not getting any middling ratings, 17.4% step up and say, yeah, it was fair. And then 13% said it was poor. Now, the last time I did look at the episode 8 poll, fair was doing very well. In fact, it
Wow.
was much higher than, I think it was higher than good.
Wow.
Yeah, great was still very much in the front running, but I think fair was in second place.
Did you see the Road to Tarvalon podcast of the Rings of Power?
I have listened to some of Amber's stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
On Rings of Power.
I'm really. It was really nice because she's she's not Tolkien enthusiast.
Right.
So she and her guests they are seeing from the perspective of show only watchers, and they were very much enjoying it. So I wonder if I think actually
the lore has tainted you, Priscilla.
No,
you gave it a 9.
I'm enjoying too, but yeah, if people just want to be to watch a good fantasy series, Rings of Power is a good fantasy series. So.
As opposed to the Wheel of Time series, which they normally cover on a regular basis. Kidding.
I really like
kidding.
Wheel of Time.
I'm kidding.
I really think I like it more than Rings of Power a little bit.
You heard it here, folks. She hates the Rings of Power. It busts.
I never said that. It's it's 1 point above to me because I think the themes of Wheel of Time are more modern. The whole thing about sexuality and relationships and how the societies are established and developed in the world. It's has much more things to do with how the world in modern times is, if that makes sense. It's more realistic, and I tend to like that. But Rings of Power is really fantastic. It's a world that it's not a retelling of what is happening now. It's a complete creation and it's beautiful. It has elves and everything that adore. So it's flavors. But I love both series. I love Wheel of Time a little bit more.
Excellent. She's at Priscilla TV1 on YouTube. You can check out her reviews of both the Wheel of Time and Rings of Power, amongst other fantasy shows as well. Just about everything except what's involved with the Song of Ice and Fire anymore. And that's fine. That's your call, your choice. I can completely understand your willingness to avoid stepping into those cesspools.
I'm not avoiding. I'm just not interested anymore. It's
wow. She's outgrown Martin. Love it. Love it.
No. I think I hope he managed to complete the series, but if he doesn't, I'm completely fine because I'm not reading. Okay. So yeah.
Here's the thing. You can send your hate posts to me at Bus Blockbuster for ruining your experience of the Lord of the Rings and Wheel of Time and whatever else. You can also plead with the boss, that's Bubba, at the word double the letters PHQ across all social medias. Plead with him to fire me because I've been doing this for 15 years. I haven't gotten any better, and I'm really kind of tired of doing it. So please get me fired. And finally, leave comments on the YouTube.
If you don't want to do it, you should not do it. You should just I don't know, float around like Sauron did in the first episode.
Yeah. I'll return to my black oil and my black oily spaghetti and just crawl around and eat rats. That's Priscilla's actual wish for me. Just go eat rats. And I continue to put words in Priscilla's mouth as we say goodbye.
Oh, thank you for listening, and goodbye, people.
That's not making the recording. We don't want pleasantries at the end of a recording.
Yeah.